Hello, everyone, and welcome to not only Bell Let's Talk Day, but the first day of our Real Talk conversation. Today is the 11th year of Bell Let's Talk, and when it was introduced back in 2011, we were encouraged to spark conversation around mental health in the hopes of reducing the stigma, in the hopes of building awareness, and really normalizing the conversation around mental health. Today, more than ever, we've all had some impact with regards to our own well-being. So continuing the conversation is really what's going to help us through, help guide us through some of those darker times and really see the light at the end of the tunnel. But there's a lot of us that can actually make that light bright. Our hope today, and with the amazing group of individuals that I have, is about promoting the continuation of this conversation, to share our own stories, to listen to the stories of others, and really be part of the change that we are all wanting to see. So without further ado, I'd love to invite the panelists that have agreed to join us, to have them all introduce themselves and share why they have decided to join us today. So welcome and thank you all for joining us. I'd love for you to each take a bit of a time to introduce yourselves and really just shine bright and tell us why you're here. So Don, do you want to get started?
Yes. I'm Donovan. I'm here because mental health is my passion, and being a man in the Black community, it was hard to talk about that stuff. So growing up, I kept it in my heart a lot, and that's why I call it Heart of a Man, because I'm trying to revolutionize manhood, and I'm trying to open up more and show vulnerability as a sign of strength. So I created a men's group. I created an apparel to wear so I could donate a portion back to mental health organizations that are trying to give us more of an open space to talk. And I like to share my story. I'm here because I like sharing my story, and that's why I created Heart of a Man, because it's, like I said, vulnerability is strength, and that's Heart of a Man.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm truly grateful and thrilled to have you a part of this and for you to share your experiences, not only for the work that you've been doing, but also the personal journey that you've been on. So thank you.
Thank you.
We then have Randy.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here today. The reason why I'm here is, aside from my background, so I'm a social worker by trade. I'm currently working in the suicide prevention space, and I've been in mental health for about 30 years. So I'm kind of aging myself, but I have to be real because this is a very honest communication and conversation we're having. I have to be real about that. But more importantly, I'm here, I guess, as an end user. This last year has been probably the most challenging and difficult year for me personally. Had a number of life events that has impacted me significantly from a physical and mental health perspective, and as a result has impacted my family as well. And despite my background in mental health, it has really pushed the boundaries of my resiliency and mental health to ensure that I am not allowing it to overwhelm me. And I'm just so passionate about this. And to Donovan's point, and being a man, there's still a lot of stigma around mental health and the challenge we have in asking for help, because that's one of my weaknesses. So today is great for me, both personally and professionally. I'm happy to share my experience because it helps me grow, helps me develop, and helps me deal with the issues that I've been dealing with, including today. And quite open to have this conversation. So thank you for including me in this.
And again, thank you, Randy. You bring up a valuable point in that, quite often we're really focusing on the stigma that exists around mental health in the conversation, but we really don't highlight that some of that stigma is within ourselves. And we create certain boundaries ourselves in identifying not only the struggles we may be going through, but how to navigate what type of support we actually do need to get through it. So thank you for joining us today. And finally, we have Denise joining us.
Thank you, Christina. Guys, so happy to be here with everybody today. So I'm Denise Walagora. I am the training and delivery specialist with Mental Health First Aid, which is a program of the Mental Health Commission. But I'm not just here because of my professional role. I'm here because mental health is I'm very passionate about mental health. I worked frontline for 20 years before I joined the commission almost 10 years ago. But we need to talk about it. I have lived experience, and I feel that, for us that are seen more in the leadership position, that sometimes we're seen as the strongest ones and that we have everything together. Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't always have everything together every single day. And that it's okay for us to talk about and say, I'm not okay today. And that, I think that for people who look up to us as the leaders in what we do, that we need to be honest about how we are doing. Because if we are open about having these conversations and we're open about our mental health, that opens the doors for everybody else. And it also lets people know that we're safe to talk to. So that's why I'm here today. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And it is something that, again, we do keep, for some, very private with regards to our experience, for a variety of different reasons and a variety of different factors. And some of it is our upbringing, and some of it is just not even understanding that experience ourselves and in knowing what we're feeling and being okay with that. And, there's a lot of different various messages that we've heard over the years that have sort of been taglines and call to action around mental health. And it's like, you're not alone. It's okay to not be okay. But what's the meaning behind that? And what's the follow through? What is the actual call to action? And it is about that conversation. It is about utilizing a tool that we all have at our fingertips, that we use every single day in aspects of our lives, whether it be personal or professional. But yet when it comes to those conversations that are uncomfortable or make us feel uneasy, we sort of pull back. And the intention today is really to sort of pull back that curtain, make us all vulnerable, and being okay with being vulnerable to have those difficult conversations. And, Denise, you've shared, Randy as well as Dawn, you've all shared that there's that personal perspective you bring into this conversation, that you do bring into the aspects of your professional lives. I myself also share that same perspective. While experiences may be different, we all have something that is of value to share, that someone else that we come in contact with can actually learn from, reflect from, and actually have meaning that, I am not alone, because this has shared that same storm.
Yeah.
Change comes from listening, and we know this, right? It comes from learning new things. And part of it's about caring and compassion, but it is that conversation. So, Randy, I'm intrigued to find out your perspective of why it is important to continue that conversation beyond today.
Yeah, and so important. And Bell Let's Talk Day is a day. We just went through Blue Monday, which to me is a farce. And but what it does is it gives us the opportunity to highlight something that's important. And Denise, to your point, I feel it's our obligation as those in this field to bring that out and to show people that, there is support out there, to lead them to that support, and not just do it in the moment just for today. It has to be sustainable. You have to find ways to check in throughout time to ensure that that person is okay or that person is okay. In suicide prevention, we often talk about that in terms of just checking in. Mm-hmm. There's a belief out there that, well, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a social worker, so how can I really help? Same in suicide prevention. People feel that they need to be, specialists in suicide prevention to help someone. Otherwise, I'm going to screw them up even more. And that is a myth, and we know that. So today, I find it's a great day to highlight the myths, break down those barriers, and find ways to keep that conversation going. And man, it's as simple as, and I get this every day, I have people check in with me every day, whether it's through LinkedIn, a phone call, an email, a text. Someone out there is thinking of me, and man, that is what keeps me going.
Yep.
So I feel it's my job to do the same and reciprocate. I will check in with others and see how they're doing, and not necessarily because I know they're going through a hard time. Maybe they're not. Who knows? But
Yeah.
it's nothing that prevents you from just checking in. Anyone can do it.
And
So-
that's, sorry, yeah.
For me, it's that's how when we talk about sustaining it and continuing that conversation, it's just little check-ins every day, and it just becomes a part of your life, a part of your everyday thing. It's like you wake up in the morning and you're just checking in with someone, especially now that we've been isolating for so long. There's no excuse not to. Like you're too busy. Not like you have so many things and places to go. Now is a great time to just check in.
Got to walk to the kitchen and then back to the living room.
And that's the thing, right? It's about normalizing that check-in, that connection on a day-to-day basis. And whether it is just to check in with someone to see how they're doing, or to share a funny, meme to put a smile on their face, or to get them riled up in a different way and sort of just shake things up for people. And, we've lost so much of our normalcy of routine because of everything that's happened. And yet mental health concerns have always existed, even before COVID.
Yes.
But yet the focus point of things lately have all been about COVID. And I appreciate that. And I'm not taking away from that experience whatsoever. And though we still need to highlight that regardless of circumstances that are out of our control, mental health is something that we all experience. It's something that is part of us, and we need to be able to embrace every up and down that we all face. And that unity of support can really make the difference for someone. So, Don, I see you shaking your head. Please.
Okay. I'm going to tell you right now. Listen, I've been having I felt sad this morning. I felt down. My heart felt broken because it's a tough day for me. And when you guys were saying that, Randy, listen, some of the things you said just now touch my heart. You see, it's just, we have to have uncomfortable conversations, especially about mental health, because I was born in Jamaica and I couldn't have these conversations. So that's why I decided to be a part of Bell Let's Talk, be a part of this, to just open up, because I can't talk about it. I have maybe one or two friends that might reach out to me and call me, right? And it's not just doing it only in the moment, as you said, Randy, right? You got to continue having these conversations. Even if you send a text and say, hey, I love you, I'm here to support you. We can't just have it right now, just today. We got to continue having these conversations. I struggle with depression to this day. Every day I deal with it, but I learned from therapists. I learned from just my meditation, from prayer, how to deal with it. And that's why I started Heart of Man, because as men, I can look tough. I got my turtleneck on. I look pretty GQ, right? But my heart's hurting me.
Yeah.
There's tears that come in my eyes. So having these conversations, it's so important to have honest conversations, not just one day, not just for this month, but every day if you can. It could save a life. Yeah. It's so important, because even now, there's a lot of men, especially in the Black community, that are hurting. But because we're taught to just keep it inside and be strong and tough, and no, mental health doesn't exist, it's only demonic. Listen, whoever's listening to this, it's so friggin' important to just reach out and say, hey, what's up? You all right? Yeah. Lend a helping hand and then learn about it, man. I took, Christina, I met you taking a suicide prevention training course, and oh my gosh, this woman inspired me because she was so real and authentic. I was like, wow, I finally learned what it is to talk to someone that's going through suicidal ideation, that's thinking of contemplating suicide, right? And how to ask the right questions. And that takes time. And like I said, guys, it's okay to have these uncomfortable conversations, because it could save a life and it can make you feel so empathetic.
Yeah.
In your heart. I lost my.
It's okay.
That
Thank
sounds-
you. And Dawn, the passion behind just you sharing how you're feeling about it is really what we all want to achieve and can achieve if we have that conversation with someone else that isn't necessarily comfortable with sharing their own experience.
Yes.
It's that what they are taking just by listening to what is being shared, or listening from, an outside view behind the curtain themselves because they are uncomfortable. Whatever we hear is going to plant a seed.
That's right.
And when Don and I first met, I had said to him, he's like, why are you in this profession? And I said, well, I know that I'm not in this profession to help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I have accepted that reality. But if I can plant a seed in someone's perspective to change it, to give them that sunshine moment, to give them an alternative of seeing that their situation doesn't have to be what it is, then I've achieved what I've wanted to achieve by joining this profession. And, when we look at having that conversation and continuing that conversation, it can be difficult to know how to navigate that and how to get that started. And again, most of that uncomfortability or discomfort, pardon me, is just not knowing how to do it.
That's right.
Exactly.
So, Denise, I'm interested to see from your perspective, what might be certain ways that, again, qualifications aside, education aside, that is not a variable to consider, because we all have our own strengths and we all have our own stories that are valuable.
Yes.
How would you educate, inform? How can someone start that conversation?
So one thing I'm really going to point out is that we all have the ability to be a support. But a lot of reason why people don't check in is because they're afraid, like if I see that Donovan's not replying, I'm like, well, what if I check in? I can't fix what's going on, so I'm not going to check in. So first of all, everybody just needs to throw away the idea that by checking in means that we're going to fix it. Because if somebody has a physical issue, all right, so let's say that you have a loved one that's going through treatment for cancer. We're still checking in with them. We can't take the cancer away, but we're still checking in with them. We need to give the same support and respect to those struggling and living with mental health problems that we do to those that struggle and live with physical health problems. As we know, there is no health without mental health. The other thing is that there's always a reason for change. So if we notice that friend that's getting quieter, that's not replying to our text, that's, negative, listen, we start with hey, I've noticed lately that I haven't heard from you in the last 5 days. I'm concerned. Is there something going on? Right? Let's start with the I statements, because I'll tell you right now, like Christina, if I came at you and said, hey, what's going on with you? You didn't reply to my text 5 days ago. What's your problem? How much are you going to respond to me if I say that to you, right? But if I say, hey, Christina, I'm a bit concerned. I haven't heard that from you. Is everything okay? That response is going to be a lot better. Right? So it starts with us. It starts with us. It starts with us having empathy. It starts with us creating that safe space. And listen, we can all be listeners. We don't need to have 15 letters after our name with 50 degrees to be able to listen. Right? And as Randy said, if there's one thing we have right now, it's time.
Yeah. I always say you don't have to listen. Listening is about understanding, not about generating a reply.
No.
Right?
Exactly.
And we don't always need to have an answer to things or the words to say it. And quite often, some of the challenges I see from other individuals and having those conversations and sharing their experience is, well, what do I say? And if I say it this way, or if I say it this way, and there's so much time, energy, effort that's put into trying to figure out the words.
Oh, yeah.
Just being raw.
Exactly.
And it's having that honest conversation, that raw, organic sharing of what you are feeling. it's not about telling someone else that their experience is any less than or not valid, but it's sharing your perspective of it, because that's our truth, right? That's how we're feeling. And it just adds to, again, building that rapport, building that connection, but really highlighting that that person isn't alone.
That's right.
Right. And that it's okay to not be okay, because I'm sharing with you, whether you share with me. Today, I'm not okay.
Exactly.
Randy, what do you think as, good starting points to have those conversations?
Yeah, for me, and I think, I forget who said it earlier, but they talked about being authentic. And for me, when we talk about mental health and having this conversation, it's really about being authentic. We have thousands of conversations all the time, but how many are really, really honest? How many are really authentic? And I find that when it comes to mental health, man, you should find people that are authentic with you. If you really want to have that honest conversation, find someone that you trust.
Yep.
And be yourself, be authentic. People bullshit all the time. I mean, we see it, Paul, we see it across the board, right?
Yep.
Really surround yourself with those who are there for you because of who you are, not because of their 15,000 or abbreviations and whatnot, but because they care about you. Doesn't matter where they come from, who they are. One thing I've learned over this past year is the importance of surrounding yourself with people who want to be there just for you. And those are the ones to have conversations with. And those are the ones where you will find, if you think back on the conversations that you've had that were actually meaningful, you will find the people that were meaningful to you were part of that.
Yep. So
to me, it starts with being authentic, being honest, and finding the right people to have these conversations with. Some people might just say, tell you what you want to hear, and that's fine. You will know who they are. But find people who are there just for you and share that honesty and that authenticity. And before you'll get into a meaningful conversation. You don't need 12 beers to do it. You just need someone who's willing to listen and to share and be honest with you. So it starts with sourcing the right people.
Yeah.
And I apologize. Someone else said something really important earlier. It's becoming across as someone that others see as someone that they would want to talk to.
Yes.
So if you want to have that conversation, then you need to be seen as someone to have that conversation with. So if you're out there talking shit, pardon my language, and downplaying mental health, people will see you as someone that they probably won't approach.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you got to have that approachability, that honesty, and then I think you'll start having much more, meaningful conversations.
Exactly. And I think that, it's really important for us to highlight that honesty just isn't about telling the truth, right? Mm-hmm. It's really being and having the ability to think, feel, and share your real self at any given time, regardless of the situation, regardless of even experience that you're having, because it is allowing yourself the clarity to really evaluate and dive into how are you feeling, what are you actually reacting to, and what support do I need? Mm-hmm. It's through the clarity that really provides you opportunity. If you don't have the clarity, that's just another barrier. And, there's this quote, and Dawn, I'm going to want to hear your thoughts on this too. There was a quote, I forgot who said it, but I always wondered why somebody doesn't do something about that. And then I realized that I was somebody. And I forgot who said that. I want to say it was Lily Tomlin, but I don't think it was. Maybe Glenn Close, I don't know. But that quote really highlights that if we're in the back seat, looking at someone struggling, or even that gut reaction that we have and saying, something seems not right, even in ourselves, we are somebody that can make the difference. It's not about expectation of what the difference is going to be, but it's that something needs to change and that we can be part of that. So Dawn, what I'm interested in hearing from you is your perspective on various steps or things that people can do whether it be professionally or personally, it doesn't, it's sort of, it encompasses all of us, to keep this conversation moving forward beyond today.
What people could do, well, first of all, I gotta say though, being open and honest about how you're feeling, it's not easy. It's not it's not easy. I'm trying not to swear because I'm just feeling that passion. But we have to open up, and I'm gonna tell you, I myself, I don't have a lot of people I could talk to about this, but when you have even that friend that will emphasize and just show you that they care and they want to listen, that's so amazing. I might have one person, just one, right, that I can do that with, but that's actually saved my life. And that's what I need you guys to do. I need everyone to just express your concern for the other person in a way that shows empathy. Just let them know you're available anytime you want to talk to, they want to talk to you. If you're going through it too, I got to be real and honest though. For myself and for other people, they might not have a lot of people to talk to, and they feel really uncomfortable talking to them because they know they'll be judged. But if you can find even that one person, even that therapist, like I found you, right? I found you guys to talk to. So I'm here talking to you guys right now, right? This to me is a blessing, right? But we just have to show that we care and we are here for them and we can listen to them. Do not give them, you can't say, oh, you got to do this, because some people want to give advice right away. This is the advice, do this, do that, do that. This is going to change your life. Listen, I have my PhD in pain, okay? I have my bachelor's in brokenness. I have my degree in depression. I have studied different things. I'm a mental health advocate now, and I want people to learn more so they can help and continue helping moving forward. Listen, the suicide rates have gotten higher, okay? Like when I checked it out, World Health Organization said there are 800,000 people that take their lives every year, right? A lot of people don't have the people to listen to. A lot of people don't show empathy. A lot of people can't even talk to their mother, father, friend, and that is hard. And I'm saying that for every man out there too that thinks they're tough and they have that, I'm a man, I can't talk about this. Men are 3 to 4 times more likely to take their life because they can't talk about it. So I wanted to tell everyone, I hope I'm answering your questions right, because sometimes I could just go on and I just go on, okay? You gotta show empathy. I'm gonna tell everyone to reach out to different people, reach out to the World Health, suicide prevention, call the numbers. There's so many numbers you can call. Reach out to me. I'm here to listen. Hell, I'll give you a hug. Email me, text me. Everyone here, please. That's what I got to say. And I got a lot more to say, but I'm going to keep it calm right now. I got a lot.
And that's the thing, right? There's so much that each of us can say. And each of us can say not only about experiences that we've had, people that we've come in contact with and their experiences, stories that we've heard, whether it be personally or professionally. It is about understanding that regardless of what our backgrounds are, regardless of what stories we want to share, it's just being a friend or an ear, or that compassionate listener of support. Not supports to fix, as Denise earlier mentioned. We're not here to fix things. No. We're here as a sounding board, because what we do know is that when we have these thoughts, when we have these feelings, and we have these experiences, talking about it makes them more manageable to understand and figure out and work through. When you keep them all inside and you try to work on it yourself without the support, or you try to just ignore it, or, sit there and figure out, oh, well, I can't talk about this because that's too deep or that's too sensitive. It becomes such a bigger entity, and it becomes more challenging for us to actually chip away at.
Oh, yeah.
Randy, yes. I'd love to hear your perspective on, the things that we can do as individuals to be that somebody and keep that conversation going.
Yeah, I think it really starts with behaving that way, and people watch you, right? And people hear what you say and see how you act. And it's so important for you to look like someone or to behave like someone that makes someone want to come and talk to you. So it's being authentic. If you really care about people and you really want to help, then you have to be seen that way. To me, that's number one. Also, I think follow through on your commitments. Often we say, well, yeah, I'll get back to you in a week, or I'll check in with you in a couple of weeks. You just don't, for whatever reason, right? I think it's super important. And when we talk about how do we keep the conversation going, is follow through on your commitments to follow up, right? So important. As soon as you miss that first one, you are dead. The other thing is make yourself available. I know a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, just call me or give me a shot. And man, you do, and you never get a hold of them, or they never return calls for whatever reason, right? And that's okay, but you have to make time. We talk a lot about that in suicide prevention is, you have to make time and make sure you're available, because if you're putting yourself out there to help someone, man, you better be available. So find time to do that. We really look at what I call a community-based approach. When we talk about mental health, that's great if you have good mental health in the home. But what about the workplace? What about where people learn? What about where people play? Let's think of it as kind of that public health approach to mental health, where there's mental health support in all areas of a person's life, right? Where you work, live, play. And as I said before, just surround yourself with those that are good for you. I've learned that lesson so hard this past year, and I've purged what I can't control, and I've just embraced those things that I can, and it's made a huge difference. I mean, I used to be the most sarcastic person in the world, I swear to God. I'm less of that now, but I think that's just an output from surrounding myself with the right people. And man, Don, I hear you. I thought I had this vast network, and I swear to God, it's kind of shrunk, but it's okay because it's shrunk to the right level of people.
It's genuine. So, it's genuine, Randy.
Right on, Denise. So those are just some things I think, Christina, that in terms of kind of breaking down the barriers and allowing for that conversation to continue. I think those are some strategies that have certainly worked for me.
Well, thank you, Randy. Denise, what do you think?
Oh, I have so much. First of all, Donovan, I would take that hug because I would definitely give you one back, buddy. Being an extroverted hugger, this is very challenging for me. You know what we do? We have to have that conversation at work. We have to have it at home. One of the things that we've done with Mental Health First Aid is that when the pandemic first hit, is that we have coffee time on Zoom every morning at 9 and tea time at 2. And that coffee time, and we don't talk about work. Occasionally, something jumps in, but that connection. And I'll tell you what, that we can never downplay the importance of connection. Because I'll tell you, during the summer, my mom was real sick, and I had to go to my parents. And for 5 weeks, I worked from my parents' dining room table, and I will tell you, the thing that got me through those 5 weeks of dealing with a mom battling, health issues. I have aging parents who both battle with health issues. But the one thing that kept my mental health for those 5 weeks, coffee time and tea time with my team. Without that, that would have been, I don't even know what those 5 weeks would have looked like. But it's also us being vulnerable. We need to be vulnerable, but it's with the people that we trust that we're vulnerable. Listen, my team's seen me cry. I have no trouble. I'm very open about my emotions. We have to be, but it's with those people when we feel comfortable, right? And so we need to be those comfortable people, right? We have to take away, knowledge is power. People are afraid of what they don't understand. People don't understand the suicide. People don't understand mental health. That's where trainings come in. That's where mental health first aid, assist. Let's go arm ourselves with those skills so that we can have those conversations. But it starts with us. It starts with us, right? Yeah. Let's be those role models for those in our lives.
Exactly. And again, part of the barriers, is, as you've said, like us, the stigma around it. We know that there is stigma that still exists. We know that certain individuals have various judgments and opinions. Yep. on different experiences of mental health and mental illness, and how you display it, how you should be reacting. And that does cause some concern for an individual that may want to share their experience or want to talk about it. And it's really important that, you know, when we know and we have been able to identify the need for support, when we've identified in ourselves that we're not experiencing the best form of us, the best version of us today, doesn't mean that we can't work towards tomorrow in achieving a different outcome, but needing support to do that. If we have that strength to acknowledge within ourselves, then speaking to Randy's point, Denise's point, and even Dawn's point, finding those individuals that you know you can be vulnerable with, that you know that you can share that today I had a very difficult day and I just wanted to shut everything down and go to bed. Knowing that that experience is what you are having to work through, but having someone that you can talk to about is really what is the foundation of keeping the conversation going.
Yes.
If you can have a conversation with someone with lessening the judgment that you have against that experience for yourself and reducing that self-judgment, that's also the starting point in our individual responsibility in moving forward to keep that conversation going for somebody else. It does start with us from the very beginning. We have control with regards to changes that we can make and influence that we can have within our direct sphere of influence. But we can't change someone else.
No.
And that can't be an expectation that we have with any conversation that we go into about mental health. It is about being that fountain of support, that teamwork of bridging the gap, that someone doesn't feel alone, that you can highlight and feel vulnerable in your own standpoint, in your own feelings, to share your perspectives, to share your story, not to get anything back in return. And I think that's something that we all need to sort of get our heads around. You do things and you have this conversation not to gain anything, but to make the difference in something.
Yeah. When we all have the ability to make a difference, Christina, every single one of us does. Right. And it's not just about one day. Like, hey, kudos to Belle. Like, kudos to Belle for doing this for 11 years. Like, you know, but we can't stop just today. Right. We can't just say, oh, hey, with what next year, Belle, let's talk day. No, we need to have our own, like, it's Belle, let's talk day every day. Right. It's mental health talk every day. You know, we know, like, with what's gone on for the last 10 months that we have been living in isolations and lockdowns and restricted and social distancing, you know, it's sad that it's taken a pandemic to bring mental health to the forefront, because mental health has always been here. But now that it's at the forefront, let's do something. Let's continue these conversations. Let's, you know, for people, become familiar of those resources within your communities. Put those crisis numbers in your phone. Put the Kids Help phone number in. Put the Distress Center number in your phone, so that when you are talking to a friend and you don't say, oh, you need to call the Distress Center, it's, hey, did you realize there's a 24-hour hotline? Would you like me to share the number with you? Right? So that's what we need to do. So sorry, I get carried away sometimes.
Well,
but
and again, it again speaks to when we look at aspects of our own lives, mental health aside, let's just take it back to other aspects of our lives. When we become passionate about something, we put our all into it. We look at, you know, what can I do to make this better? Because your love, your care, your attention, your effort goes into the outcome of that. And you put your all into it. Our health, whether it be physical or mental, is what keeps us going. Right? And we are so accustomed and sort of ingrained to focus on our physical health and routines, practices, self-care practices of healthy eating and exercise. And while there, yes, is a direct correlation between our body's health and our mental health, there's as equal of a correlation between our mental health and our physical health.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not the one way bridge. It goes both ways.
They
And
call
we really need, sorry?
Sorry, Christine, I said, you're exactly right. They call that a comorbid effect. And I was feeling it to a certain extent this past year with my physical health starting to impact my mental health. And if you don't take care of one, then now what you have is issues with both. They call that comorbid effect.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be deadly. And one doesn't trump the other, and one doesn't necessarily happen, but one often causes the other. So if you're having mental health issues, if you don't correct it or if you don't resolve it over time, you will gradually grow physical health issues as well, whether it's, stomach problems, gastro, whatever, and vice versa. Often when you have, people have had chronic back pain for years and years and years, and it starts wearing on them mentally, then all of a sudden they're developing mental health issues that they didn't have or would not have had physical health issue not been there. So the importance of dealing with it in the moment and as it comes, and not just kind of pushing it off and saying, yeah, I'll get through it, or it'll go away on its own.
Yeah. Let's be honest. Being human and living life has its struggles, right? It has its disappointments. It has its setbacks. It has its obstacles. It's just part and parcel of us being human beings.
Yeah.
And having thoughts and having those feelings. And we have to be open and learn how to get in tune with that a little bit better than we have. And I think, again, having those conversations with other people and sharing our own experiences can help model that comfortability. Can help normalize the sharing of stuff that makes us feel uncomfortable. Absolutely. So then we can lessen the discomfort. We can become less, or it can become easier, frankly, to talk about things. Just like me saying, I drink black coffee, and what do you mean you put sugar in your coffee, Randy? Like, that's kind of like, no. But it's just a matter of what works for you is not going to necessarily what works for me. But if I have that conversation openly about the same experience, then maybe I can learn something from you. And you can learn something from me. It's about that give and take, but it's about giving, not to receive something, but to take something away.
That's why we give our time, right? To take some of that away from others.
Yeah. But we also can't forget that, in our hope to continue the conversation moving forward, to better support others in their journeys and really lessen the stigma, we also really need to take that time and that moment of pause to step away from that role and really look at our own lives and the support that we need. Because the one thing that is truly consistent in anything that you do and in any role that you carry and have is yourself. Yep. So if you are not mentally well, you cannot assume any responsibility of being well for anyone else.
Exactly.
So we need to really, truly take a look inwards now and beyond to really ensure that our own mental well-being, our own care of self is being taken care of. Yeah. And that has to be a priority, while yes, supporting others is definitely at the top of the list. If you're not being honest and true to your own experiences and where you're feeling and where you're at, how authentic and genuine and real is that?
Absolutely, right? Christina. Absolutely. We do need to, it's about being vulnerable. And when we find those people that we trust, right, it allows us to be vulnerable because they hold that space for us and they hold that safe space, right? But we do need to do that self check-in, and see how am I doing today and what's going to help me feel better. You know, like, I'll be very honest, I had a rough week last week. I think it's just between I was in quarantine and then we went right into lockdown, and, you know, everything in Ontario, we're all in lockdown, everything. And, you know, one of my best friends, Lizzie, she comes over for football on the weekend, and there's no football this weekend. And I said to her on Saturday, and on Saturday, I'm like, or Sunday, I said, hey, I said, I know there's no football next weekend. I said, but can you come over for movie day? Because we're in isolation. I live with my love bug, Lily Seahawk, my doggy. So I'm allowed to have one person is my emotional support person, right? It's Liz. And I said, can you come over for movie day? Because I said, I've been having a rough time and I can't go 2 weeks without seeing somebody. Right. Mm-hmm. And everybody needs a Lizzie in their life, because I know that I'm going to have movie day and that's going to help my mental health. But it's about being vulnerable and reaching out to those that we know are going to be there to support us. And let's do that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No, please, Donovan. No, that was at the end. Go ahead, buddy.
I just hear the word vulnerable. A lot of men that are listening to this maybe might think the word vulnerable is seen as a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Vulnerability. What I've learned, though, I had a man in a group that I had say there's vulnerable and courageous. So it's vulnerageous. We put them together. Vulnerable is like being courageous at the same time, opening up and sharing. That's a sign of strength in a way. It's not a sign of weakness, right? Yep. If it is, sorry, let me take it back. It's you being just open and saying, this is me, this is what's going on. It takes a lot of courage to do that as a man. That's not easy. Oh. When every man listening to this, it's okay to be vulnerable because it's a sign of courage.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And Donovan, you know what? Sorry, Christine. Just one thing, just one big teaching point. I know it's like we need like 5 hours for this, but when I went through my depression in 2010, the biggest teaching point that I took away from that, and it was something that I didn't do when I was struggling. I did not reach out to my circle, to my circle of friends. I didn't talk to anybody because, hey, I work in mental health, blah, 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 right? I didn't talk to him. And that was the biggest lesson that I took from that, to reach out to my peeps. Yeah. And I do that now when I'm struggling. So reach out. There are people in your life that care about you. Reach out.
Absolutely.
Again, and that's that. It really boils down to that self-stigma. We can very quickly, point the finger to society or cultural backgrounds and sort of restricting and being a man, and we can definitely put a lot of emphasis on those being factors for sure that contribute to people's self-stigma of not feeling comfortable to share. And we have to, that's again, part of continuing the conversation moving forward, is not only about making the change outwardly, but it's making the change inwardly. So we can, be the pillars and continue the movement forward, because that's exactly what it's going to have to be, is moving forward.
Yep.
Randy, any closing arguments or any closing statements that you wish to share with the group before we start wrapping things up for today?
Yeah, no arguments, that's for sure. I totally agree with everything that we're talking about today. And yeah, we do need a lot more time, but I'm hoping that by the end of this, people get a sense, and there's been a couple of comments around why people don't do it, and some of the challenges is we know it's not easy. It's quite easy for people like us to come on this show and to talk about it, but it wasn't always easy for us.
Yeah.
And something that you need to practice, and as you do it and as you have good experiences, I think you're more apt to do it. But it's not rocket science, and it doesn't take 4 years of education to be a helper.
Right.
Checking in, or it's just even around suicide prevention, and we talk about that. There is training available, and for those who want to go deeper, but just being there and being open and just reflecting what people are saying can be helpful. So to me, the message is anyone can be a helper. We all need it. Denise, to your point, man, it was hard for me to ask for help after all these years, but I did, and I'm so thankful that I did. Don't be afraid to reach out and take a risk. You'll be amazed at what comes back to you.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you. Dawn, do you have anything that you want to share before we wrap things up?
Well, this is for those that have loved ones that are struggling with mental health. and they don't want to really admit it because it's really tough. But if they're not quite ready to open up with you, I'm just going to say this to everyone. Ask how much you can help them find someone they trust to have an honest conversation with. So a parent, teacher, doctor, any trustworthy person. You don't have to, like, for example, when I was going through it when I was younger, sometimes I felt like I was forced, and that made me fall back and say, I don't want no help, forget this. So just be empathetic. Don't force them, but just ask them how you can help them. Listen. And if you're that person struggling with mental health, it's okay to talk about it. I'm still here right now. The power you can find and the peace you can have if you just get the help you need. Listen, Google's my friend now, because when I need some help, I Google things and I get the knowledge. The knowledge is powerful.
Yeah. And thank you. You know, and you bring up a very good point about readiness, right? And from an outside perspective, looking into someone's life as an observer, you definitely do pick up on certain details, experiences of that seems, you know, that's a little bit concerning, or that seems off, or that person's behavior seems different.
Mm-hmm.
It does need to come from within in order to really take the next step forward in acknowledging that something needs to change. So it's not only about us as the one experiencing the challenge, but it's also to be that teammate to say, hey, I'm here when you're ready.
Yep.
Here are, you know, resources for you if I'm not that person, right? And that's something to be really clear on, is when someone is struggling, as Randy has mentioned a number of times throughout, find the person that you trust the most. Because when you are struggling, you're going to look for your person, because it is something that's very intimate and private, and again, that self-judgment of like, oh, I'm experiencing this, so I got to find someone that I trust. We've just launched some various websites of resources available that are there, and that's the thing. It's just letting people know that it is okay to feel the way that they're feeling. It's about letting them know that it doesn't have to be that way every single day. That there is the light at the end of the tunnel, that you are there as a teammate of support to bridge that gap and to be there every step of the way. And whether you're the support of access to them and that those words of wisdom or the perspective shifters, however you want to present it, it's just letting them know that things don't have to be the way that they are, and that there is support and resources available to them if they need it. But you encourage them to just have it in case of.
Yep.
Denise, any closing words?
Yeah, you know what I'm just going to say is that if somebody reaches out to you, and this is obviously for our viewers today, if somebody does reach out to you, thank them for trusting you, and ask them, what does help look like for you today? Right? Because what help looked like last week may not necessarily be what helps looks like today. But thank them and just say, thank you for trusting me. I'm here for you, right? We can all be those supports, every single one of us. I also encourage, the viewers, take a course, learn, take an assist course, take a mental health first aid course. I wrote a few blogs last year. They're on the mental health first aid website. And one of them is checking in on yourself. I encourage our viewers to go read some of those blogs, do a self check-in, see how you are doing today, but be that support for others, create that safe space, but take care of yourself first, because you can't take care of yourself without being that support. But please, after today, let's keep these conversations going every day.
And you really brought up a key point that I think really just closes today, and the intention of what Real Talk, the importance of conversation, was meaning for. Support today isn't necessarily going to be the support that someone needs tomorrow. And that is why it's so important that the conversations continue beyond today, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yeah.
So we have to be prepared to have that conversation on an ongoing basis, to have the strength, to have the resiliency, to take on the day that presents itself to be that day.
Yep.
So thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much for the 3 wonderful individuals that I've had the pleasure of not only professionally knowing, but personally knowing. So I again, thank you, because you are trusted individuals, and I appreciate your rawness today and your truthfulness and authenticity. So I encourage everyone that has watched us today and everyone that will watch us later, continue the conversation going, because today and every day beyond, we can make the difference. We just have to be willing to follow through with that. So thank you very much. And to everyone, take care.
Be well.
Be well.
Be well.